I sit here, my hands wrapped around a warm cup of tea, staring out the window. The quiet outside matches the stillness inside. The snow falls gently, covering the ground in a soft white blanket. But inside, there's no warmth. The hearth crackles. In the corner, its orange glow casting shadows on the walls, but it's not enough to chase away the chill in my chest. I glance around at the empty rooms, at the places where Claire used to sit, her laughter filling the air. The house is so different now. Once, it was full of her, full of life, her footsteps echoing down the hallway, her voice calling out to me from across the room. I used to love watching her move through this space, watching her bloom into the person she was becoming. But now, there's nothing, just silence. I run my fingers over the armrest of the chair she used to sit in, and it feels so cold. Did it go wrong? I try to pinpoint the moment, but I can't. The days passed, one after another, and I watched her drift away, little by little. I never imagined this emptiness would be what I'd face, not after everything we shared. My heart aches as I look around, wondering when the warmth left, when the house, when she, stopped feeling like home. I thought I'd be okay, that I could handle this, but now that I'm sitting here, alone, it's like the weight of it all hits me again. This house, once filled with so much love, now feels like a hollow shell. The only thing left is me, wondering how we got here, and whether there's any way to bring her back. I close my eyes and think back to the days when Claire was just a little girl, her face lit with wonder, her eyes wide with curiosity. I gave her everything I had, my time, my heart, my love. I was there for every scraped knee, every bad dream, every celebration. She would run to me, arms wide open, calling my name with so much joy in her voice. And I'd hold her close, thinking, this is what it's all about. This is love. I remember the mornings we spent in the kitchen, baking cookies, the scent of sugar and vanilla filling the house, mixing with the laughter of a child so full of life. How simple it was then, how clear. I wasn't just her mother. I was her world, her safe place. She trusted me with her fears, her hopes, and her dreams. I gave her everything, because she was my everything. But now, as I sit here, everything feels so distant. That little girl is gone, replaced by a woman I barely recognize. I don't know when it started to change, but somewhere along the way, I stopped being the one she turned to. The love we shared, once so vibrant and effortless, now feels like a memory that's slipping through my fingers. The warmth of the past is replaced by the cold air between us. I still love her, with all my heart, but it doesn't feel like she loves me the same way anymore. I wonder where I went wrong. Was it something I did? Or was it just time, pulling us apart in ways I couldn't stop? The words hit me like a punch, to the stomach. You need to leave, she said, her voice sharp, cold. I stood there, frozen, not able to speak, not able to move. My heart felt like it had stopped beating for a moment. The weight of her rejection was heavier than I ever could have imagined. I had always tried to be there for her, to support her, to give her everything she needed. I didn't deserve this. I wanted to scream, to ask her why she was doing this to me, to us, but the words wouldn't come. All I could do was stand there, feeling the silence press in on me. I felt small, invisible, like I didn't matter at all. Her words hung in the air like smoke, and I could feel the years of love and sacrifice slipping away, unraveling before my eyes. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. I never imagined it would end like this, her telling me I was no longer welcome, like I was just another problem she had to deal with. The pain was overwhelming, but what cut me deeper than anything was the emptiness that followed her words. No more explanations, no more questions. Just the cold finality of the door closing behind me. I sit in the quiet, wondering where it all went wrong. Was it me? I keep asking myself over and over, but the answers don't come. Was I too much? Too demanding? Or was I too little? Not giving her what she needed in the way she wanted? The questions haunt me, and I can't seem to escape them. The pain in my chest is unbearable at times. It's not just the rejection, it's the confusion that follows. I gave her everything. I sacrificed so much for her, for us, and now it feels like it was all for nothing. How could she turn away from me like this? How could she forget everything we had, everything I had done for her? I look out the window, watching the snow fall in silence, and wonder if that's how I'm supposed to feel now. Silent, forgotten. The world outside is cold, and so is the emptiness inside me. I should be angry. I should be furious with her. But all I feel is a deep sadness, a loss I can't name. The weight of it is suffocating, and I don't know how to move past it. But somehow, in this stillness, I know that I have to keep going. I have to find a way to heal, to stop the pain from consuming me. There are so many things I want to say to Claire, so many words trapped inside me, just waiting for the right moment. But every time I open my mouth, they seem to get stuck, lost somewhere in the space between us. I've held on to so much, kept it all inside because I thought if I gave it all to her, if I poured my love into her, everything would be okay. But now all I feel is silence. The fire crackles softly, but the warmth it provides doesn't reach the space between us. I want to reach out, to tell her how much I still love her, to explain how deeply this hurts, but I can't. It's like the words are too big, too heavy to fit into the cracks that have formed between us. The silence is suffocating, and yet it's the loudest thing I can hear. I remember the times when we could talk for hours, the way she would laugh and share her thoughts with me. Now there's nothing but a deep, aching quiet. I wonder if she knows how much I still care, how much I still need her. I want to tell her, but all I'm left with is the weight of what's unsaid pressing down on me. The days pass slowly, and I find myself waiting, though I'm not sure what I'm waiting for anymore. I wait for a phone call, a message, anything that might bridge the distance between us. But deep down, I know it might be in vain. I've waited before, waited for her to come around, to realize that I was here, always here. But the silence stretches on, and I don't know how long I can keep waiting. It feels like a strange kind of déjà vu, the waiting, the uncertainty, the hope that things will change, even though I know they probably won't. It's a feeling I've known before, one I thought I'd left behind. And yet, here I am again, waiting, hoping. But for what? I don't know anymore. Closure, maybe. Or just a sign that things can get better. I want to believe that it's possible, that she'll come back, that we'll find our way. But I don't know if I can wait forever. The house is still, the fire crackling faintly in the corner. The snow falls outside, and I sit here, feeling the weight of time slipping through my fingers, unsure of where it's taking me. I remember the days when Claire was just a little girl, her eyes wide with wonder, soaking in the world around her. She was my world. I was her protector, her guide, the one she would run to when she needed comfort. Every morning, the house would echo with her laughter, the sound so pure, so full of life. I can still picture it, her tiny hand grasping mine as we walked through. The kitchen, her face lit with excitement over something as simple as a new cereal box or the flowers blooming outside. It wasn't much, but it was everything. We shared those moments, just the two of us, a little world of our own, and nothing seemed more perfect than that. The sun would filter through the kitchen window, casting a soft light on the table where we'd sit together. The smell of freshly brewed coffee would fill the room, a warm, familiar comfort that always made me feel like I was doing something right. We'd talk, or sometimes we'd sit in silence, just enjoying being together. I never imagined those mornings would end, that the bond we shared would ever feel so distant. I cherish those moments now, in the quiet of the mornings, when the air is still and everything feels just a little bit too far away. It was always just the two of us, Claire and me. Her father had left, and I became both mother and father to her, doing everything I could to fill that void. I gave her all of my love, all of my strength, because she was the reason I kept going. I would spend days running errands, tending to her needs, making sure she never felt alone. She depended on me for everything, and I was more than willing. To give her everything I had, I never questioned it. I didn't mind. I wanted to be the one she could turn to, the one she could rely on. I look back now, though, and wonder, maybe I gave too much. Maybe I made her need me in a way she shouldn't have. There were times when I thought I was her everything, and it was enough. But now, I wonder if I made it too hard for her to stand, on her own, too hard for her to break free from me when she was ready. The kitchen feels warm this morning, but the air is heavier now, a little thicker than I remember. The sun dances on the table where we once sat, a gentle reminder of how everything used to be, how we used to be. The scent of fresh blooms from the garden drifts in through the open window, but it doesn't feel like enough to fill the space between us now. As Claire grew older, something began to shift. The sparkle in her eyes, that light that once shone just for me, was still there, but now it was turning toward other things, other people. I could see it when she started spending more time with David, the boy who seemed to steal her attention, away. It was small at first, just little changes in her behavior. She started pulling away from me, leaving me to wonder if I was still the one she needed. It wasn't just about David, I know that now. It was more than that. She was changing, growing into a woman, and I didn't know how to keep up. I tried to hold on, to stay close, but I could feel her slipping away, as though she was being pulled toward a new world that I couldn't understand. It broke my heart in ways I never anticipated. Outside, the garden is blooming, but inside, the air feels heavier. I sit at the kitchen table, staring out the window, watching the sunlight dappling the grass. It feels like the seasons are reflecting everything between us. New growth, yes, but also a distance I can't bridge. I try my best to help her, to be there for her, but somewhere along the way, I became a shadow in her life. I used to be the one she sought out for comfort, for advice, for love. But now I'm just a figure in the background, watching as she moves forward without me. The more she grew, the more I faded into the distance. It's like I'm no longer needed in the way I once was, and it's harder than I can put into words. See her now, and I feel like I don't really know her anymore. She's becoming someone I don't recognize, someone who doesn't need me the way she used to. I try to find my place, try to offer my help, but it feels like I'm offering it to a stranger. I still love her with everything I have, but the more I try to connect, the more I feel like I'm fading away. The sunlight is stronger now, casting long shadows across the room. The coffee I brewed this morning feels more like a distant memory than a comfort. Everything feels like it's slipping out of my hands. What I thought was love began to feel like a burden. I could see it in Claire's eyes, the way they no longer sparkled with the same warmth when she looked at me. There was a distance growing between us, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. The things that once connected us, our shared moments, the quiet understanding we had, began to feel like a weight, pulling her down, pulling me down. I wasn't the woman who raised her anymore. I wasn't the safe place she turned to. I had become just another presence in her life, a reminder of something she no longer wanted or needed. It hurt more than I can describe. To see the love we shared turn into something that felt heavy, something that seemed to weigh her down, was a heartbreak I didn't know I could survive. The house feels warm, but the atmosphere is strained, like we're both holding something back. The quiet hum of the house used to be comforting, but now it feels suffocating. The space between us is palpable, filled with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. Each day, the distance between us grows wider. I used to be her anchor, the one she could always count on, but now I feel lost at sea. Claire is building her own life, making her own way, and I'm stuck here, watching her move forward without me. I never expected this. I thought we'd always be close, that I'd always have a place in her life. But now, I see that she's leaving me behind. I want to reach out, to pull her back, but I don't know how. She's moving into a world where I no longer fit. The space between us is growing, and I'm not sure how to fill it anymore. The house is quiet, but the sound of birds outside fills the silence. The warmth of the sun is comforting, but it only highlights the loneliness I feel. I'm stuck in this moment, watching her move forward, unsure of where I belong anymore. I can still hear her words, clear as day, echoing in my mind, each one sharper than the last. It's time for you to move on. The words hit me like an icy gust of wind, cold and unfamiliar. The voice I had known all my life, her voice full of warmth and love, was now distant. So cold, so final. I stood there frozen in place, as if the ground beneath me had vanished. My heart felt as though it had stopped beating, the shock sinking deep inside me. I couldn't speak. I couldn't even breathe. My body seemed to betray me, frozen in time. The air around me grew colder, the chill creeping in from outside, as though the house itself was mourning the loss of what we once shared. It felt as though the world around me had paused. Everything around me was still, except for the deafening silence between us. The warmth, once so familiar in this home, had evaporated. It was as if this place, the very air I had lived in for so many years, was no longer mine. I wanted to scream, to ask her why, to tell her that I had given everything. For her, for us, but the words never came. I just stood there, helpless, as the distance between us stretched further. I wanted to reach out, to hold her, to remind her of all the years we had shared. But I couldn't. The gap between us was already too wide, and her coldness was too much to bridge. The room felt colder now. The fire in the hearth flickered weakly, casting long shadows across the walls. The evening outside had already begun to darken, and inside I could feel the chill creeping through the house. This wasn't the home I had known, not anymore. It came out of nowhere, so suddenly. One moment, Claire was my daughter, the little girl I had raised with so much love, and the next, she was telling me I was suffocating her. The words were like a slap to the face, coming so quickly I could barely keep up. She said them in that flat, unemotional voice, and I felt the air leave my lungs. I stood there, my chest tight, my body frozen as if the very oxygen in the room had been sucked out. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. How did it all unravel so quickly? How had we gone from sharing everything to this? The questions swirled in my mind, unanswered. I wanted to shout, to demand an explanation, to ask where I had gone wrong, but the words caught in my throat. The space between us had suddenly become too large to fill with anything but silence. The wind howled outside, a sharp reminder that the world was moving forward, but inside, I felt trapped in a moment of complete disbelief. The house, once a sanctuary of warmth, now seemed too big for just one person, too empty. The walls felt like they were closing in, pressing down on me, suffocating me with the weight of what had just happened. I stood in the doorway, unable to speak, as Claire's words sank in deeper. I couldn't move, couldn't think. How had we gotten here? How had it all slipped away so fast? The door slammed behind me with such force that I could feel the vibration in my bones. The sound was like a physical blow, sharp and final, echoing through the empty space. I stood there, on the other side, feeling the sting of the separation, the finality of her words still fresh in my ears. The door between us wasn't just a barrier of wood and metal, it was the space between who I once was to her and who I had become in her eyes. I felt the air grow thick, heavy, as though the silence inside was pushing out all the warmth we had shared. I didn't know what to do, where to go. My mind was still reeling, trying to process everything that had just happened. How had it come to this? How had I become someone she could close a door on without a second thought? I stood there in the quiet, unsure of where to turn. The wind outside howled, a mournful sound that seemed to mirror the hollow feeling in my chest. I wanted to go back, in, to knock on that door, and beg her to let me back in, to let me explain. But I couldn't. I couldn't force my way back into a place that no longer wanted me. The darkness outside was creeping in, and with it, the realization that something had broken beyond repair. The warmth I had once known had been swept away, leaving only the cold, stark silence between us. My heart sank as the door closed behind me, but there was no room for tears. There was nothing left but emptiness. Claire had always been my everything. She was my reason, my purpose. But at that moment, I felt like I no longer mattered. I had given so much, poured so much love into her, and now, standing on the other side of that door, I felt invisible. Forgotten. The silence that followed her words was deafening, louder than any argument or plea I could have made. It wasn't the sound of the door closing that hurt. It was the absence of the warmth, the connection that we once shared. It was gone now, replaced by a painful void. I stood there, staring at the door, as if somehow hoping it would open again. But it didn't. And in that silence, I felt my heart break in ways I couldn't have prepared for. It wasn't just the rejection. It was the realization that I had been replaced, that the love I thought was unbreakable had shattered, and I was left standing in the ruins of everything we once had. The house felt smaller now. The walls felt like they were closing in, pressing down on me, suffocating me with the weight of the rejection. The warmth that had once filled this place was now a distant memory, lost in the emptiness that stretched between us. As I walked away from the house, I couldn't shake the feeling that the world had forgotten I existed. My footsteps echoed in the quiet, and I felt every step take me farther from the woman I once was, from the mother I thought I was. It wasn't just the house I was leaving. It was everything. The life I had built, the memories I had held so tightly, seemed to fade with each step. I was no longer a part of Claire's life, and that thought hit me harder than I expected. I wasn't just walking away from a home. I was walking away from the person I had been for so long. The night had settled in, and the cold air bit at my skin, but it was nothing compared to the coldness in my heart. I couldn't help but feel like I had become invisible. All the years of loving her, of being her rock, seemed to disappear with that slam of the door. The life I had known was slipping away, and I couldn't do anything to stop it. The silence of the house echoed in my mind, the feeling of being forgotten hanging heavily in the air. I wasn't just leaving the house. I was leaving the woman I used to be. And for the first time, I wasn't sure who I was anymore. The apartment is small, colder than I expected, the chill from outside creeping through the thin walls, wrapping itself around me. I sit here, staring at the phone, waiting for it to ring, knowing deep down it won't. Claire never called, neither did her children. The silence in the room feels oppressive, heavy, like the walls are closing in on me. I glance at the clock. On the wall, tick, tick, tick. The sound is almost unbearable in the quiet. Time is passing, but nothing is changing. No messages, no calls, no signs of life from them. I can't help but wonder if I've become someone they can simply forget. Have I become so insignificant that even a simple word from them doesn't matter? My heart aches with their absence, the emptiness of this apartment, reflecting the emptiness I feel inside. I've always been there for them, always, but now I'm alone. The silence is deafening, more so than any argument we could have had. It's the kind of silence that fills a room with all the things left unsaid, the things that linger in the air but are never spoken. I pick up the phone again, staring at it as if willing it to ring, to bring some comfort, but there's nothing. The silence hangs, thick and heavy, and I wonder if I'll ever hear their voices again. I sit in the quiet, the cold air from outside creeping into my bones, and I can't stop the thoughts that circle my mind. How could Claire, my daughter, the one I raised with every ounce of love I had, become someone who could turn her back on me so easily? My heart feels heavy as I try to find some explanation, some reason why she would shut me out. But all I can find is confusion, painful, deep confusion. I think back on all the years, all the sacrifices I made, and I wonder if they meant anything at all. The love I gave her, the time I spent, the heart I poured into raising her. Was it all for nothing? Did it all disappear the moment she closed that door behind me? The anger I feel mixes with sadness, a grief I can't put into words. The warmth of family feels like a distant memory, a warmth I no longer have. I question everything I thought I knew about love and family. Was it real? Was she ever really mine? All I feel now is a hollow ache, a space where something used to live, but now it's empty. I'm left with only the silence of this apartment and the coldness in my chest. The world outside is darkening, the sky gray with the weight of winter. The apartment feels barren, devoid of life. And so am I, it seems, slowly, quietly fading in the absence of their love. The longer I sit here, the more I feel the anger simmering inside me, like a slow burn that refuses to go out. It's not just the rejection, it's the feeling of being discarded, like I never mattered in the first place. The warmth I had once given, the love I thought was returned, seems to have disappeared without a trace. I try to focus on something else, but it's like this anger has a life of its own now. It builds inside me, my chest tightening with each passing minute. The quiet of the apartment is almost suffocating, the cold seeping into my bones, yet it's not the cold I feel, it's the heat of frustration. I don't understand how Claire could do this to me, how she could just let me go like I was nothing. The wind howls outside, its voice almost as angry as mine. The evening light is fading, and the shadows inside my apartment stretch longer with every passing minute. I want to shout, to scream, but all I can do is sit in this silent room and let the anger build, let it simmer and twist inside me. I've given everything for her, everything, and now I'm left to fester in the silence of my own hurt. It feels like a storm is brewing within me, and I don't know where it will go, how it will end. But I know it's only getting stronger, this anger, this feeling of being forgotten, of being left behind. And there's nothing I can do to stop it. Amidst all the anger, the silence, something began to shift inside me. I could feel it, like a seed planted in the middle of the storm. A plan, slow and steady, began to form in my mind. At first, it wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about hurting her. It was about regaining control, reclaiming the power that I felt had been stripped away. The idea took root in the quiet of my apartment, in the stillness that surrounded me. There was nothing else to hold on to, so I held on to this, a way to prove that I wasn't someone she could just push aside. I needed to do something. Something for myself, something that would remind me that I was more than just the woman she had forgotten. The air in the apartment feels heavier now, like the tension has seeped into every corner. The cold breeze from outside matches the growing heat inside me, the desire to take back what was taken from me. It isn't about hurting Claire. It's about finding my own strength, my own purpose. I can't let the silence define me. I won't let this be the end of who I am. As the idea grows inside me, it feels like the only thing I have left to hold on to. It's the one thing that keeps the weight of rejection from crushing me entirely. Each day, without a call from Claire, or the kids feels like a weight pressing down on my chest, harder and harder with each passing hour. The silence isn't just quiet, it's heavy, suffocating. The rejection isn't just in the absence of their voices, it's in every memory I have of them, Every moment I thought we shared, now gone. I gave them everything, every part of me. And now, there's nothing left but this hollow, aching emptiness. It's like the love I had poured into them has evaporated, and I'm left holding the remnants of something that never mattered enough to keep. The apartment is colder now, the darkness outside swallowing the last bits of light. The clock ticks on. It sounds like a reminder that time is passing, and yet nothing is changing. The weight of rejection sits on my chest, each second heavier than the last. The house, the life I had once known, feels so distant now. I wonder if Claire even remembers the times when she would run to me, when we'd laugh together, when everything was easier. I wonder if she even misses me. I sit in the quiet, the weight of their absence pressing in from every corner of this small, cold apartment. The silence is the loudest thing now, and it's impossible to escape. It fills the room, fills my mind, and fills my heart, and I don't know how to make it stop. I wasn't expecting visitors that day, and the stillness of the morning was comforting in its own way. The soft rain tapped against the window, filling the room with a gentle rhythm, as if the world outside was keeping time with my thoughts. I sat in the quiet, unsure of what to do with myself, when suddenly the doorbell rang. It startled me. This break in the silence. I wasn't expecting anyone. As I stood up, the unease settled in my chest. Who could it be? And then I opened the door. There, standing in front of me, was Ruth, my old friend. Her familiar smile reached across the years, and for a moment I forgot about everything that had happened. It was as if time had never passed, as though no years of silence or separation existed between us. She didn't say anything right away. There was no rush, no need for words. Her presence alone grounded me, like a steady hand reaching out to steady me in a world that had felt off balance for so long. I didn't know what to say at first, but her calm energy seemed to fill the space in ways I hadn't realized I needed. The warmth of her presence contrasted with the coolness of the spring rain outside, bringing comfort and familiarity to a house that had felt so empty. I felt a wave of relief wash over me, and for the first time in days, I didn't feel so alone. Ruth didn't offer advice or solutions, she just listened. Her steady presence in the room, quiet and comforting, was exactly what I needed. I found myself speaking, the words pouring out of me before I could stop them. I told her everything, how Claire had changed, how I felt abandoned, how I couldn't understand what had gone wrong. Ruth didn't interrupt. She didn't tell me what I should have done or what I could do now. She simply sat beside me, her hand on my shoulder, her eyes soft with understanding. She let me feel what I needed to feel, and for the first time in so long, I felt like it was okay to let the weight of it all fall. Each word I spoke seemed to lighten the burden, even if just a little. Her quiet support wrapped around me like a warm blanket, soothing the ache I had carried for so long. The weight that had been pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe, began to ease. The sound of rain continued outside, a calm backdrop to the steady rhythm of Ruth's silent comfort. The air in the room felt warmer now, filled with something soft and healing that I hadn't realized I was missing. Ruth's presence was enough. She didn't need to fix me. She simply needed to be there. After a long silence, Ruth spoke. "You've got more fight in you than you know," she said, her voice calm but firm. I hadn't expected those words to hit me the way they did. It was such a simple statement, yet it felt like a jolt, like a switch had been flipped inside me. I hadn't realized how much I had been drowning in my own pain until those words landed in my heart. For weeks, I had felt like I was just drifting, carried by the current of my own hurt, unable to see anything beyond the weight of what had happened. But Ruth's words brought clarity. I wasn't a victim. I still had strength. I was still capable of standing on my own, of taking control of my life again. Maybe it was time to stop being the one who always gave, the one who always sacrificed. Maybe it was time to take back what I had lost, to reclaim the part of me that had been swallowed up by everything else. The rain outside softened, and the sunlight began to peek through the clouds. The room, which had felt so heavy moments ago, seemed to fill with a new kind of light, something warm and hopeful. Ruth had given me more than just words. She had given me a chance to see myself differently. As I sat beside Ruth, something shifted inside me. I had been so consumed by my own pain, so focused on what I had lost, that I hadn't noticed how much I still had left. The soft rain outside, slowing now to a gentle patter, seemed to mirror the shift inside me. The clarity came slowly, like the morning fog lifting. I had been carrying so much for so long, but now I could see that I wasn't broken, I wasn't lost. I had more strength than I had given myself credit for. Ruth's presence, her quiet strength, gave me the space to breathe, to step back and look at the bigger picture. The weight that had felt so suffocating began to ease, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could move forward. The rain slowed, leaving behind a fresh, earthy scent that filled the air. The sunlight broke through the clouds, casting a warm glow on the room, and in that moment, I felt a sense of renewal. A fresh start. For the first time in so long, I felt like I could leave the past behind and step into something new. Ruth didn't just listen. She made me see things differently. She gave me the gift of perspective, of understanding that I wasn't just the woman who had always given, always sacrificed. I was more than that. For so long, I had identified myself by what I gave to others, by what I did for Claire, for the people around me. I had put myself last over and over again until I forgot who I was, until I forgot that I was worthy of my own love and care. But now, sitting here with Ruth, I realized that it wasn't about revenge, and it wasn't about holding on to bitterness. It was about taking back what I had lost, my dignity, my self-respect. It was about finding the strength within myself to stand up, to say that I mattered too. Ruth's quiet strength gave me the courage to believe that I could move forward, not as the woman who was always there for everyone else, but as the woman who was ready to reclaim her own power. The room felt lighter now, the air filled with the soft scent of fresh flowers drifting in through the open window. There was a sense of promise in the air, a feeling that something had shifted, not just in the space between Ruth and me, but within myself as well. For the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful, and that hope was mine to hold on to. That months passed quietly, and as they did, I found myself slowly letting go of the house that had once held so many memories. It wasn't an easy decision. How could it be? But as I walked through those empty rooms for the last time, I knew it was time. I had lived there for so long, but the space had become too small for the woman I was becoming. It was like the walls had witnessed everything, held every tear, every moment of joy, every silent conversation. But now it was time to move forward. Moved into a small, modest place, but there was something about this new beginning that felt different. It wasn't just a physical move, it was an emotional one. The weight of the past began to lift, piece by piece, as I unpacked the boxes. In the new apartment, the space was empty, but it didn't feel lonely. It felt like the start of something new, like I was finally free to build a life that was mine, without the shadow of everything that had come before. As the golden light of the setting sun poured into the room, I sat quietly for a moment, watching the world outside. The sounds of the city hummed in the background, like a soft reminder that life was moving on, and I was too. There was a quiet determination inside me now, a belief that no matter how hard the past had been, I had the strength to move forward. And for the first time in so long, I didn't feel weighed down. I felt light, as if I could breathe again. I had sold the house. I had found a place to call my own, a fresh start. But it was more than that. there was something else taking root. In my mind, something I hadn't expected. Claire's building, the one I had helped her buy all those years ago, kept coming back to me. I had watched it grow, watched it change from an idea into something tangible, something that had meant so much to her. But now, I saw an opportunity. Not for her, but for me. I couldn't stop thinking about it. This was my chance to take control, to finally do something for myself. It wasn't about revenge or trying to prove anything to Claire. It was about reclaiming something that had always been mine to begin with, my own power. I had been so caught up in giving everything to everyone else. But now, I realized, it was my turn. The idea started as a small thought, barely a whisper in my mind, but it grew stronger with each passing day. As I sat in my new apartment, watching, the light fade and the sounds of the city grow quiet, the plan began to take shape. It felt like the universe had whispered its answer to me, quietly and without fanfare. And for the first time in a long while, I felt hope stirring inside me. For the first time in years, I wasn't defined by someone else. I wasn't Claire's mother. I wasn't the woman who had always been there for everyone. I was just me. Alone. And in that solitude, I found strength I never knew I had. There's something about being alone, really alone, that forces you to face yourself. The noise of the world quiets down, and you're left with only your own thoughts. And at first, that was the hardest part. But soon, I found that the silence wasn't so bad. In fact, it was in the quiet that I began to rebuild. Each day felt like a small victory, even if it was something as simple as getting out of bed or making myself a meal. Slowly, I leaned on myself, learning how to be my own support system. The constant pressure of being everything for everyone else had lifted, and I could feel myself becoming someone new. The air outside was warm, the city sounds faded into the background as I sat in my small apartment. It was peaceful now, the hum of the world outside no longer distracting me from the stillness inside. I didn't need anyone else to tell me I was okay. I was starting to believe it myself. And that belief was enough. I set aside every penny I could, slowly building the funds to make the purchase. It wasn't easy, it wasn't quick, but each small step, each day that I moved a little closer to my goal, felt like I was reclaiming part of myself that I had lost. There were moments of doubt, of course. There always are. I'd sit at my small kitchen table, staring at the numbers on the paper, and wonder if I was making a mistake. But deep down, I knew this was the right thing. This wasn't just about money. It was about taking back control. It was about proving to myself that I could do this. I had built something before, something good, something that had mattered. And I could do it again. Only this time it would be for me. No one else. The apartment was quiet, the soft hum of life outside coming through the window. The golden light of the setting sun made everything feel peaceful, but inside me, there was a quiet determination growing, a steady rhythm matching the ticking of the clock. The city outside felt distant, but I could hear it, feel it. It was moving forward, just like me. I was moving towards something. And for the first time in a long time, I knew that the steps I was taking would lead me somewhere better. As the months went by, my resolve grew stronger. The dream I had once held in my heart began to take shape in front of me. I could see it all: Claire's building, the purchase, the moment when everything would finally come together. It wasn't just about money. It wasn't just about owning something. It was about taking back control of my life, of my destiny. Had spent so many years giving, sacrificing, being the one who always held everything together. But now I was finally doing something for myself. I was reclaiming my power, one step at a time. Each day, each little victory brought me closer to the goal that felt just out of reach. But I knew now that it wasn't out of reach. It was right there, waiting for me to grab it. The city hummed in the distance, a soft, constant reminder that the world was still turning, that life was still happening. The air was warm, but I could feel the calm before the storm of change that was about to come. I was moving forward, and nothing felt more certain than that. Every step I took felt like I was shedding the weight of the past, feeling lighter and more certain of who I was becoming. The goal was close now, and the weight of everything that had held me back before seemed smaller with every passing day. And for the first time in a long while, I was excited for what was to come. The day I bought the building felt like the first, real victory I'd had in years. There was no cheering, no fanfare, no one to celebrate with me, but it didn't matter. In that quiet moment, as I held the papers in my hands, the weight of the past finally lifted. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about getting back at anyone. It was about reclaiming something that was mine to begin with. My power, my independence, my future. I had made this decision for me, not for anyone else. For so long, I had lived for others, giving everything I had, trying to make things work, trying to keep everyone happy. But this time, I did something for myself. I had earned this. The quiet triumph of owning this building, of standing tall in a way I hadn't in years, felt like a moment of quiet freedom. The cool air from outside swirled in through the open window, carrying the scent of change as it rustled through the trees. It matched the way I felt, like something was shifting in the air, in me. The room felt lighter now, brighter, as if the very space was filling with new possibilities. I sat alone, but for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel alone. I felt at peace with my decision. As I looked out the window, the world seemed a little more open, a little more welcoming. I wasn't where I thought I'd be, but I was where I needed to be, and that, I realized, was enough. I dialed Claire's number, my heart racing with uncertainty. The phone in my hand vibrated, a reminder of the weight of this moment. It was time to let her know, time to tell her what I had done. When she picked up, her voice was as cold as I expected. "Hello?" I paused, my mind suddenly blank. I had been preparing for this moment for days, but now that it was here, I didn't know what to say. Finally, I spoke. "I bought the building," I said, my voice steady despite the fluttering in my chest. "And I've raised the rent." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I could feel her tension, even through the phone. I could almost hear the way she clenched her jaw, the silence telling me more than words ever could. But I couldn't stop now. I had already said it. There was no turning back. Her voice came through again, sharp and tight. "Why would you do that?" I could feel the frustration in her words, the distance between us growing with every beat of silence. But beneath it, there was something else. Something I couldn't quite place, a flicker of vulnerability that I hadn't expected. It was as if, for a moment, she wasn't just angry, she was hurt. The cafe around me was quiet, and the cold air outside made the warmth inside feel more intense somehow. I could feel my chest tightening, but I knew I couldn't back down now. It was too late. When I told Claire about the rent increase, I could hear the crack in her voice. It wasn't anger or frustration. It was something deeper, something more vulnerable. The walls between us that had been so thick for so long suddenly felt a little thinner. Her voice trembled just slightly when she spoke again, and I felt it in my chest. "I didn't ask for this," she said, her words quieter now, softer than before. It wasn't much, but it was enough. For a brief moment, I felt like I was hearing the daughter I once knew, the one who still cared, the one who trusted me. The voice that had always reached out to me, full of love, full of the bond we shared. I paused, feeling the crack in her tone reach deep inside me, stirring something I hadn't allowed myself to feel in a long time. Hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other. The walls between us had felt so high, so insurmountable, but now they didn't seem so unmovable. The scent of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, and for the first time in a long while, the cafe felt quieter, the energy inside me shifting. The cold air outside pressed against the windows, but inside there was a warmth, a possibility that had been missing for so long. This wasn't over. Maybe it had just begun again. Claire didn't like what I'd done, not one bit. Her words were sharp at first, full of resistance, full of anger. "I don't understand why you think this is necessary," she said, her voice tight, her frustration palpable. But there was something different this time. I could feel it in the way she spoke, in the way she hesitated, like she was struggling with something beneath the surface. There was a flicker of softness behind the anger, something familiar and heartbreaking at the same time. Her resistance was clear, but so was the struggle, like she wanted to hold on to the distance she had built between us, but part of her was reaching for something more, something familiar, something we had lost. I could sense it, even in her anger. She wasn't just trying to push me away, she was trying to protect herself, trying to hold on to the space she had created to shield herself from the pain. And yet, through all of that, there was a crack. Something was shifting, even if just a little. The warmth inside the cafe began to fill the space, mingling with the tension between us. The cool air outside, now starting to settle into evening, felt more distant as I sat there, holding my phone, feeling her presence through the line. My chest tightened, but not from anger. From something else, something softer, something that gave me a glimmer of hope. As we continued to talk, I noticed something shift in Claire. The anger, the tension, the distance. Slowly, it began to soften. She took a breath, and I could almost hear the walls between us crumble just a little. For the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of the daughter I once knew, the one who trusted me, the one who loved me. Her voice was quieter now, more thoughtful. She wasn't just angry anymore. She was trying to understand, trying to find a way to bridge the gap between us. "It's just hard," she said, her words softer now, the edge of anger gone. "I don't know what to do with this." The walls we had built between us were still there, but in that moment they seemed less high, less impossible to overcome. I could hear the shift in her voice, the small crack that said she was reaching for something more, something we could still share. The cafe around me felt alive, the sounds of the world outside mixing with the quiet rhythm of my heart. I sat, quietly, listening to her, and for the first time, I felt like there was a chance for us to find each other again. It wasn't much, but it was enough to remind me that the bond we once shared was still there, somewhere, and maybe, just maybe, it could be found again. It had been a few weeks since I bought the building, and honestly, I wasn't expecting to hear from Claire. After all that had happened, I had almost resigned myself to the silence. But then, one evening, there she was, standing at my door. Her face was tight, her eyes flashing with frustration. The anger radiated from her, so much so that it felt like I could touch it. But as she stood there, her breath rising in short bursts, I saw something behind the fury, something softer, something broken. It wasn't just anger. She was hurting, and I could feel the weight of it in the air between us. The chill from outside crept into the room, the soft dusting of snow falling gently on the ground, but the warmth from the fire flickered, fighting against the cold. I stood there, my heart thumping in my chest, unsure of what to say. I didn't expect her to come. I didn't expect this. "Mom," she said, her voice thick, but she didn't come in. She just stood there waiting. Her eyes searched mine, and for a second I thought she might break down right in front of me. But she didn't. I opened the door wider, inviting her in, but the words felt stuck in my throat. The silence hung between us, charged with all the things we had never said. She wasn't just angry at me. She was angry at everything. At the situation, at me, at herself, and it broke my heart to see it. As Claire stepped inside, the storm in her eyes didn't ease. Her words came fast, sharp. "I can't believe you did this," she said, voice trembling with that anger I had come to know so well. But beneath it, there was something else, a deeper pain I hadn't expected. Her body trembled as she stood just inside the door, her gaze piercing. But I could see how much she was struggling to keep it together. This wasn't just about the building. It was about everything that had led us to this moment. "You don't understand," she continued, her voice cracking as she spoke. "I didn't ask for this. This change, this distance." Her words hung in the room, thick and heavy. The fire crackled softly in the corner, but the warmth it provided barely touched the coldness between us. I could feel it, her pain, and it mirrored my own. I wanted to reach out, to take her in my arms like I used to, but I couldn't. I could see the tears threatening to spill over in her eyes, but she fought them back. She wasn't just angry, she was devastated, and that devastation cut through me in a way I wasn't prepared for. The quiet snowfall outside continued to fall, its softness mirroring the stillness inside the room. We were both standing on the edge, unsure of how to move forward, how to bridge the distance that had grown between us. But one thing was clear. This wasn't just about the building. It was about everything that had happened before. And neither of us knew how to fix it. "I didn't ask for this," Claire said, her voice trembling with emotion, each word hitting me like a punch to the gut. I froze. There it was, the moment I'd been dreading, the words I couldn't undo. Her tears were threatening to spill, and I could see the weight she was carrying. I wanted to comfort her, to hold her and tell her that everything would be okay. But I knew I couldn't, not in the way I used to. I wasn't that woman anymore. Her voice broke as she continued, and the pain in her words made my heart ache for her. I could feel the years of hurt, of resentment, of miscommunication that had led us to this. But it wasn't just about me, about what I had done. She had her own battles, her own wounds that I hadn't seen until now. I stood there, rooted to the spot, my chest tight with the weight of everything she had just said. The fire in the corner flickered, casting long shadows across the room, but it wasn't enough to push back the coldness between us. The room felt smaller now, suffocating in its stillness. I didn't know how to make her feel better. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to take back the past, to fix it all. But the truth was, I couldn't. I couldn't undo the hurt we had caused each other. And that realization hurt more than anything Claire could say. As Claire's words settled in the room, I realized something had changed. She wasn't the little girl who needed me to fix everything, and I wasn't the woman who could sacrifice everything to make her happy. The truth between us was deep, painful, and undeniable. We had both changed. And while that was painful to admit, it was also freeing. I wasn't the woman she could walk all over anymore. I wasn't just the caretaker, the fixer, the one who made everything right. I had boundaries now. I had learned that I couldn't lose myself in the process of loving someone else. But that truth between us, this new reality, was hard to swallow. It was painful, and it was real. We weren't the same anymore. And I wasn't sure how to move forward from here. Claire's pain was still visible in her eyes, but so was mine. The years of love and sacrifice had created something beautiful between us, but it had also created something broken, something unspoken. We were both standing in the rubble of what we once had, trying to figure out how to rebuild. Outside, the snow continued to fall gently, a quiet reminder that change was inevitable. But inside, the air felt heavy. The warmth of the fire was a small comfort, but it didn't chase away the weight of the truth that hung between us. As I watched Claire stand there, her pain was palpable, raw, and real. My heart ached for her. I could see the woman she had become, the woman who had her own struggles, her own battles. I still loved her with all of my heart, but I couldn't take back what I had done. This wasn't just about her anymore. This was about me, about reclaiming myself. For so long, I had given everything to her, every piece of myself. But now, I had to set boundaries. I couldn't keep sacrificing myself for her. I couldn't let her walk all over me anymore. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about getting back at her. It was about me, about protecting myself, about standing firm in who I was. The love I had for her would never go away, but so much of it had been given without thought to my own needs. Now, I had to take that love back, not because I didn't care, but because I had to heal. The fire in the corner crackled, casting a warm light on the room, but it felt colder than ever. The snow outside was silent, almost as if the world was holding its breath. And so were we. Torn between love and the boundaries I had to set, unsure of how to move forward, but knowing I couldn't stay in the past anymore. The question hung in the air, thick and heavy, like a storm ready to break. Claire's eyes locked onto mine, searching, probing, as if she was trying to see inside me, trying to make sense of everything I had done. "Why did you do it?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly, as though the words themselves were too heavy to carry. The weight of her question crushed me. I had anticipated this moment for so long, but now that it was here, I didn't know how to answer. My heart raced as I prepared to speak the words that had been choking me for months, the words I had kept locked inside, afraid of what they might do to us, afraid of what they might reveal about me. I looked at her, really looked at her, and for a moment, it felt like the whole world stopped. The fire crackled softly in the background, but the room felt colder, the air heavier. The only sound was her breathing, shallow and uncertain. The stillness between us was palpable, like the space was filled with all the things we had never said, all the hurt that had gone unspoken. My mind raced, trying to figure out how to explain myself, how to make her understand, but no words seemed right. I took a deep breath and finally spoke, knowing that what came next would change everything between us. There was no going back. I looked at Claire, really looked at her, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could finally be honest. The words spilled out before I could stop them, raw and unfiltered. "I did it because I loved you," I said, my voice shaky but firm. "You made me feel like I didn't matter anymore. I wasn't going to be invisible." The truth was harsh, brutal even, but as I said it, I felt a weight lift off my chest. I had kept it hidden for so long, buried beneath the years of love and sacrifice. But now, it was out in the open. And even though the words stung, even though I saw the pain flash in her eyes, there was a strange sense of relief. I wasn't sure if she would understand. I wasn't sure if she could. But I knew I had to say it. I had to stand up for myself, for the part of me that had been lost in all the years of giving and giving and giving. The soft glow from the lamp cast long shadows across the room, and the warmth of the fire only seemed to highlight the coldness that had grown between us. The tension in the air thickened as my words settled between us. I waited, my heart in my throat, unsure of what would come next. After I spoke, the silence between us felt like it lasted forever. My words hung in the air, their weight heavy, thick with meaning. Claire's eyes were locked on me, and I could see the pain there, the same pain I felt, the same hurt. But I couldn't take it back. I had said it. I could hear her breathing, deep and slow, as if she was trying to process everything, trying to make sense of what I had just said. I wanted to speak again, to soften the blow, to explain myself better, but I didn't know how. The fire crackled softly, its warmth contrasting with the coldness between us. The lamp's glow flickered, casting fleeting shadows across our faces, the room suddenly feeling smaller, more enclosed. The silence stretched between us, thick and unyielding, as if the world itself was waiting for one of us to break it. I wanted to reach out, to comfort her, to apologize for the pain I had caused. But I couldn't, not yet. We both needed time to understand this new version of our relationship, this raw truth we had just uncovered. And so, I waited, silent, still, not knowing what would come next, but knowing that this silence was a step forward, even if it didn't feel like it. After what felt like an eternity, Claire finally reached for my hand. Her fingers brushed mine, tentative at first, as if unsure I would accept the gesture. But I did, and as soon as she touched me, everything shifted. The storm in her eyes began to soften, the anger fading into something more vulnerable, something raw. Her voice, when she spoke, was quiet, almost hesitant. "I'm sorry, Mom," she said, her words thick with emotion. "I didn't see it." The weight of those words hit me harder than I expected. I had waited for this moment, for her to finally acknowledge what had been broken between us, but hearing it from her, seeing the shift in her eyes, made everything feel different. It wasn't immediate. The walls between us hadn't fully crumbled. Yet, but in that moment, I felt the smallest crack, the beginning of healing. The warmth from the fire now seemed to fill the space between us, pushing back the coldness that had settled in. The crackling of the flames became a comforting backdrop to the unexpected tenderness that filled the room. The soft light of the lamp illuminated the quiet, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like we were starting to find our way back to each other. As she held my hand, the years of hurt between us slowly began to melt away. I could feel it, this soft, gentle release of everything we had been holding on to. I could feel her regret, her genuine apology, and I knew, deep down, that this was a beginning, not an end. It wasn't immediate. It wouldn't be. But it was a start. For the first time in so long, I felt the possibility of healing. The walls we had built, brick by brick, were starting to crumble, not in a grand gesture, but in the small, tender moments we shared. I could feel her pain, just as I could feel mine. But now, there was room for both of us. Room for forgiveness. Room for growth. The fire in the corner crackled, its warmth a comforting companion to the quiet closeness between us. The soft light of the lamp flickered gently, casting long shadows across the room as if time was slowing down just for us. The snow outside fell silently, but inside there was a quiet energy, a hope that maybe, just maybe, we could rebuild what we had lost. The space between us was still there, but for the first time in a long time, it didn't feel so wide, and that felt like a miracle in itself. As I sit by the window, the last light of the sun slips below the horizon, casting everything in a warm, golden glow. The sky changes from soft blue to a deeper hue, just like my heart has changed in the past few weeks. The sun's descent seems to echo my own journey, slow but steady, a quiet retreat into something new. The warmth from the sun lingers in the room, and I can't help but feel the peace of this moment. It's as though the world is saying, "It's okay. You've made it through." I watch the sky shift, the clouds turning shades of pink and orange, as if the world is saying goodbye to the day, just as I'm saying goodbye to the past. The air outside carries the scent of spring, fresh, new growth, a reminder that even though things have changed, there is always room for something new to bloom. There's a quiet acceptance inside me. It's been a long road, full of ups and downs, full of pain and growth. But in this moment, as the last rays of sunlight fade away, I realize we've come a long way from where we started. The past will always be with me, but I don't need to carry its weight anymore. The world outside is alive with new growth, just like I am. The trees sway gently in the breeze, and I know that tomorrow will bring more change, more light. The moment is simple but profound. The sun is setting, and with it, a new chapter begins. Claire and I have come so far. When I think back to the harsh words we exchanged, the long silences that followed, I realize how different things are now. We're not perfect, far from it, but something has shifted. We've learned to listen to each other in ways we never did before. The space between us used to be filled with anger and misunderstanding, but now there's something new. Understanding. We've both made mistakes, said things we didn't mean, but now we see each other differently. I see her not just as my daughter, but as a woman, someone who has her own struggles, her own pain. And she sees me, not as someone she has to fix or save, but as a person with my own flaws and strengths. The air feels warm tonight, the kind of warmth that comes with new beginnings. Outside, the birds are singing, the leaves rustling gently in the breeze, and I realize that the world is moving forward just like our relationship. Slowly, but surely. It hasn't been easy, and it hasn't been fast, but we found something better. Something real. The sounds of life outside remind me that healing is ongoing. I no longer look at Claire with anger or resentment. I look at her with love and with respect. And though we may never be the same as we once were, I believe we're on the right path. I've learned that sometimes standing up for myself is the only way to move forward. For so long, I lived my life for others, doing what I thought was right, giving everything I had, trying to make everyone else happy. But somewhere along the way, I lost myself. It wasn't always easy. In fact, it often felt wrong. To put myself first, to say no when I used to always say yes, to make choices that were for my own well-being, it all felt foreign at first. But slowly, I realized that standing up for myself wasn't a betrayal of anyone. It was an act of self-love. For so long I had been nothing but a mother, a caretaker, a giver. But I wasn't just those things. I was a person with needs, with dreams, with a right to take up space in this world. I sit here in my quiet apartment, the soft breeze outside stirring the branches of the trees. The air is still, almost as if the world is giving me space to breathe. And in that stillness, I find strength. The sunlight outside may be warm, but it's the quiet moments of reflection that fill the room with clarity. I've learned that standing up for myself isn't just necessary, it's vital. I am worthy of my own love, of my own care. And in that, I found the strength to move forward. As I reflect on everything that's happened, I realize that forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's not about erasing the past or pretending things didn't hurt. It's about moving forward, about healing. Claire and I have both made mistakes, some bigger than others. But the truth is, we're both human, and we both deserve forgiveness. I think about the things that hurt, the things we said to each other, the ways we let our pain speak louder than our love. And I realize that forgiveness isn't just a gift for the other person. It's a gift for myself. Family isn't about never being hurt. It's about learning to forgive, to understand that we all have flaws, and that those flaws don't have to define us. It's about accepting each other, not in spite of our imperfections, but because of them. The warmth from the setting sun lingers in the air, and I feel the world outside moving, breathing, growing. The flowers bloom, the trees stretch toward. The sky and the air smells of new beginnings. I feel my heart opening up again, slowly, cautiously, but surely. Forgiveness isn't easy, but it's necessary. And as I forgive, I find a peace I didn't know I could have. I've learned that sometimes letting go is just as important as holding on. There was a time when I thought I had to hold on to everything, to keep everything together, to fix everything. But I've come to realize that holding on to the past, to old hurts, only keeps us stuck. It keeps us from moving forward. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean I'm abandoning the people I love. It means I'm choosing to stop carrying the weight of things that don't serve me anymore. Letting go of the need to control, to fix everything. This has been the hardest lesson, but it's also been the most freeing. The world outside is full of new life, fresh and blooming. The sun is slowly fading, but there's still light in the air, a quiet promise of more to come. I feel it too, the promise of change, the chance for something new to grow. And for the first time in a long time, I've made peace with the fact that not everything can be fixed. Not everything can be held on to. Some things, some people, are meant to be released, so that I, can grow. The light from the fading sun reflects this truth, and as I look outside, I know that the future is full of possibilities. And for once, I'm ready to let go.